Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is another installment of Book Trek 2025. So, Book Trek is a yearly event where pretty much during the summer we read Star Trek fiction. It has now come to an end. It technically ended at the end of August. I read this book in August. I'm just making the video in the very beginning of September. And yeah, I had some, great co-hosts going along with me. All the information will be down below. If you missed this book trek, please join us next year. It's fun, especially if you're a Trek fan, you've never read one of these. You're probably not going to be blown away by what you pick up. There are some really good ones, and I actually have a pretty good one right here. But they're just good fun, really. So I read for my last book trek read is Star Trek Deep Space Nine: The Siege by Peter David. And I've mentioned this in previous videos. I read some Peter David, this book trek, in honor of him because he passed away a few months ago. And he was a very prolific and much loved Star Trek writer. He wrote other things as well, but of course we're dealing with Star Trek here. And this is actually, it says, the first original novel based on the hit television series. This is just number 2. So after they adapted the pilot episode. This is the first one that come out that was original. And you never know what you're going to get when you read the books that come out when it's very early in the series. Will the characters feel like the characters? How much will things have changed in a fairly short amount of time sometimes with the writers and the actors? And Peter David, one of the things that he was really, really good at was capturing voices. He seemed to hear them very, very quick, very early on. He got a feel for who the characters were. And I felt like this was actually pretty true to the characters, with a few things here and there. There were really only a few episodes that had aired when he wrote this. And it's very good in capturing those voices in as they were at that time, and for the most part, how they would be later. We have on the cover here, you've got Sisko, you've got Odo, you've got Kira Nerys, and she's on the cover, but she doesn't actually play a very large role here. This is much more of an Odo story, actually. And we have a mystery on board Deep Space Nine. There is a killer, and it's kind of like one of those locked room mystery killers. People are being murdered, and they're not entirely sure who's doing it or how they're doing it. You find out fairly early on that the person doing it is a shapeshifter. So this is why this kind of becomes an Odo-focused story. He's not only the chief of security on Deep Space Nine, he is also a shapeshifter himself, and he doesn't know others like him. So he's wondering, is this person of my species? Is it not? And Peter David does a good job of not, trying to throw too many answers at you for that. That could, of course, be invalidated as the series went on. And I have to say, I do like Deep Space Nine a lot, but I've only watched the series once. So it's been many years since I've read it. But based on my memories of the episode and the characters, this did feel really good. It does a good job, I think, capturing Odo. We also have this kind of religious, somewhat zealot group that, not the Bajorans, there's a different alien species on Deep Space Nine that Sisko has to deal with. And we get some, good kind of moral quandaries, especially with Julian Bashir. He finds that one of those aliens that belongs to that more zealot race is terminally ill, and because of their religious beliefs, they're not allowing him treatment. So it's really interesting what goes on there. And there's also another plot with Quark scheming with another Ferengi to try and buy Deep Space Nine, and that actually makes for some pretty funny moments as well. So one of the things that Peter David is also really good at, and the last book that I had read by Peter David for Book Trek did this also pretty well. It was a TNG book. This one actually does it even better. He's really good at dropping lots of different threads throughout the story and keeping the pacing up in a really, almost like compulsively readable way. Giving you a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there as you go on, but blending it all really, really well, really seamlessly. And then, having things come together in a nice climax in a satisfying way. So, yeah, I was really impressed with this. I like this a lot. Both Peter David books that I read for Book Trek this year, I liked a lot. And I like this one even more than the TNG book that I read. So yeah, I would recommend it. If you have read this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you read other things for Book Trek, I'd love to hear that as well. I've read a lot of Star Trek books, but certainly not even near a majority of them. There are a lot of them out there, so I'm always, interested to see what people are liking and also what they're not liking, because there's some junky ones as well. But this was a hit, so yeah. As always, thank you, BookTube.